Did you feel guilty about that at all, about making that transition of prioritizing yourself? Or was that something that other colleagues make you feel a little bit guilty about?
Easy to put myself first, difficult to leave my team behind. When I stepped down from admin, the question that I had people ask me is, do you miss being an admin? Not as much, but I do not like being an employee.
I quickly learned or realized that a week of shifts doing locums was equivalent to my month salary as an employee. I have to decide, how do I want to value myself? Career planning, strategizing is not something that we're taught at all. I tell people this, anything you want to know, there's three things: YouTube, ChatGPT, and Google. Any piece of information you need to know. If you want to start a business, you want to know how to get benefits in your thing, there's no excuse anymore.
As part of a group, you are told, well, locums is bad.
All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. This is the Top Doc Podcast. I'm your host, Ali Chaudhry. And here's a special episode that we're doing with my friend, Dr. Henriquez. Just give it up for Dr. Henriquez, guys. Bow, bow, bow.
Can I give it up for myself?
And, so Dr. Henriquez, we just found out today, that we both went to Ross, right? When did you graduate from Ross?
2013?
Okay, I graduated in 2011.
What?
Yes.
So, but I guess because you're only on the island 2 years,
Yes.
we would not have
You could not have
crossed
crossed paths, so
over.
we just kind of missed each other. I didn't know we were that close. That's awesome.
How fun.
So cool. So great. I mean, Dr. Henriquez is a good friend. You know, we met about a year ago. I think it was that last AAEM. And since then, we've been in touch, and I've had the privilege and honor of working with you. And she's working with us at several sites, and we'll kind of get into your journey. We'll love to hear about kind of what interested you about locums in the first place. And then we can maybe go back a little bit as well, kind of talk about your experience as coming out of residency and how that was. So what got you thinking about locums?
So I think I've always wanted to do locums because I like traveling. So what you may not know about the story is, so I'm Canadian, and so I had the whole visa thing to go through. And so you can't really work as locums if you're on, so I was on a J1 visa.
Yep.
So on the J1 visa, you have to stay in an underserved area. You have to give back your time. You either go back to your home country for 2 years or you stay underserved for 3 years. So I had to stay somewhere. And I thought, I want to
And you have to be employed at that time.
You have
to be employed. You can't do 1099 contract work.
No, correct. Because the company has to sponsor you, whoever it is, hospital, company, whoever. And I remember looking like, I want to travel. I want to go places. I want to do things. And I just couldn't. So my 3 years ended up being a little longer than 3 years, but that's okay.
Right.
And so eventually I thought, I was with my company. I actually got into admin because I wanted to do that. Fun fact, I said I would work for 10 years because that way people would trust me in admin because they knew I did it too. Yeah. And then I got to residency and was like, yeah, this is part of the 10 years. So it didn't really last that long.
Right.
So I got into admin. It was great.
What was it about admin that made you want to go there? Was it kind of like a way of stepping away from clinical for a little bit and getting some sort of higher level involvement as well? What interested you about admin?
I wanted to make decisions.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I wanted to be the one to make decisions.
About the department, about what's going on, about everything. Yeah.
Just about everything.
Yeah.
But then as you work your way up, you realize you don't make all the decisions. And there comes a point where there are some decisions you have to make that you don't want to make. So it wasn't exactly what I thought it would be. And I mean, it was great and I enjoyed it. But there came a point where I said, I don't want to do this. I want to do things that benefit me all the time.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm off of the visa. I made it through. And I want to go. I want to travel. I like
Did you feel
traveling.
guilty about that at all, about making that transition of prioritizing yourself? Or was that something, or did other colleagues make you feel a little bit guilty about it? Or was it pretty much an easy kind of thing for you to arrive to?
Easy to put myself first. Difficult to leave my team behind.
Gotcha. Yeah. It is tough. Yeah.
That's hard because, I don't know, we just got to be so close. And they, will all joke now, like, we used to work with somebody named Dr. Henriquez, so we don't know where she is now. Like, I'll still hear that now. And I'm like, but I'm still here. So that part was hard, but I still keep in touch with them. I'm still on the group chat at work. So, that works.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm moving along and now I've forgotten the original question.
Just to how like your transition from being an admin, I guess. So you went from being an employee and you wanted to do admin work because you want to be in control.
Right.
And then you kind of decided that it wasn't for you because maybe the values didn't align, or what this
like
path
it.
was. It didn't maybe necessarily align with what you wanted for your future, right?
I like it.
And then you kind of decided to go on your own.
But you asked something before that as to why I continued on this journey, what made me want to do it.
Well, just go down the
So-
journey then from there. Like what? So what step did you take after you decided when you were in admin?
Yeah.
Like what was the next step beyond that?
So the next step beyond that was trying to figure out and navigate how do you even get into locums. And so there was a company that
What did you know about locums before even considering it? Let's put it that
I
way.
just knew that you got to travel.
Okay, that's all you knew.
You don't really know a whole lot because people don't really talk about it that much. When you're employed, you are employed.
Yeah,
And you're taught to be employed.
yeah.
You are taught that you work for X company, you get your benefits, you work your hours, you contribute to the team, and that's it. So, here's the point I wanted to make that I forgot. So, as you talk about transitioning, when I stepped down from admin, the question that I had people ask me is, do you miss being an admin? And I said, not as much, but I do not like being an employee. It was very hard for me.
You're
to
still
go
an
from-
employee, right? As an admin.
You
I mean, you're still a W-2
are.
employee in a sense, but you may have some leadership role, but technically you're still employed.
This is true.
Right.
So you're still employed.
Yeah.
But it was hard for me to go from a position of making decisions for my team to then having the decisions made for me as the team member.
Gotcha.
It was just hard. And one of the things that drove me to do locums is because I felt like this is probably the closest in emergency medicine that I could get to right now where I am my own boss. So I set my schedule, I figure out what my rates are. I'm still developing that aspect of it, but that was the closest thing I could think of to being my own boss. And so that's why I started going down the road.
So you valued really just kind of being in control of your life and your
I do.
career and your time. Is that right?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo. Apparently that's what we do.
Okay. All right. The line, right?
This
Takes
is
control.
what I've been told.
Yeah.
So then funny enough, happened when my mind was open to doing it, meaning I was willing to entertain it because we always get text messages and emails.
Yeah.
Never looked at it before.
Right.
But all of a sudden one day I got a message, hey, are you available and are you interested? And I kind of thought, I don't know, maybe I am.
Yeah.
So I text back and we started talking, and this recruiter and she wanted to know kind of what I liked, what my interests were. And I told her. She got me in touch with a site that she had in mind. And the next day they wanted to talk to me. The day after that, she called me and she said, I don't know what you did, but this is the fastest I've ever seen a doc get hired. And she's like, they want you. And I was like, really? And I mean, that
It's a
was
great
it.
first experience.
Oh,
yeah.
exactly.
That's awesome.
And that was it. And it just took off from there.
That's great. And you've been doing locums for how long now?
A year.
A year now.
I would say a year is when I first started, and I transitioned to full-time locums a couple months ago. So
Okay.
I'm now full-time locums.
Gotcha. So it's something that I think takes a little bit of time, right? To
It
get
does.
adjusted to, like we just talked about, a place that you're working at right now with the schedule and some of the like hospitals that they want you to work at, and the distance between the hospitals and stuff. Just kind of optimizing that. It takes some fine tuning, right? Are you still kind of working on that with each site? I know you're working at like 3 different places right now.
I am, but can I go back a step
Please.
and tell you what
Yeah.
was harder than that?
Yep.
Right now, it's hard to navigate not feeling torn because when you have so much opportunity and you're open and flexible, there are tons of places you can go. But that wasn't my first obstacle. The first obstacle that I had was myself and feeling comfortable breaking free from having everything done for you. Meaning you
Yeah.
have an employer, you go to work, your benefits
benefits,
are
yeah.
there for you. That's what was the hardest for me. It was, where do I get my own health insurance? I can't do this by
Yeah.
myself.
Like that's too hard for me. I can't. Yeah.
I can't. Like, how do I
Yeah,
do that?
yeah.
I have benefits that are just taken out of my check. I can call my doctor
Yes.
and everything is done for me. And it took me a while, to be very honest. Let's say I started locums, I don't know, February, March. I still had my full-time job because
Absolutely.
that's where I got my benefits.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't until probably November. And it took me having my annual physical with my doctor. I was telling him about what I wanted to do with locums. And I happened to say, I just don't know where I'd get healthcare from. He went in his drawer, pushed a card and said, call her. And it's a broker. So she was a
Yep.
healthcare broker.
Yep.
He said, I give this to all my patients. And I said, oh, called her.
Yeah.
We spoke for 2 hours. She's like, this is so easy. And for there, done. And I said, you know what? Done. And no lie, the next week, I dropped down to part-time, no benefits.
Awesome.
Done. And I thought, is this really how easy it was?
That's a big hurdle, I feel like, for a
It
lot
was
of
a
doctors,
fear.
right? Yeah.
It's
yeah.
a fear because when you don't know how to do things, everything becomes difficult.
Everything's been done for you, like your schedule, what you're expected to do, your exams, like, right? So medical school, step 1, step 2, step 3, board exam, 3 years of residency, like everything's just handed to you,
Yeah.
right? And I think that time when you get across the finish line, the idea of doing things for yourself is a very scary one for a lot of doctors, right? And that kind of paralyzes them and into accepting jobs that aren't really lucrative, or maybe just just not good work environments for them, right? Do you feel similarly, like how in your experience, doctors that you work with, and you yourself experienced that, I guess, right? But you overcame that fear. What was it that made you kind of really want to push through that? I mean, I guess your doctor kind of showed you how easy it was, right? Would a mentor or someone who could have guided you through that, would that have helped?
Yes. And I think it did. So I did know of a physician who was locums. And so when I thought that I was ready to do it, I actually reached out to her.
Okay.
And I said, I think I want to do this, but I'm nervous. And she wrote back, you can do it. This is great. This is amazing. And she just made me feel like anything you want to know, just come talk to me. Just come ask.
Let's take
And
it.
so that helped.
All right. So you mentioned that you had a mentor who kind of helped answer some of your questions, alleviate some of your concerns about diving into locums. Do you think that that's kind of somewhat of a barrier for a lot of docs who maybe don't have that exposure to someone who's doing locums that prevents them from taking that step?
I would think yes, because if you have a fear, it's hard to get past a fear if you don't have someone or some way to learn how to get past that fear.
It's like uncharted territory,
Definitely.
right? And it's kind of
For
thinking
sure.
outside the box, whereas we're trained to think linearly as a physician, right? Everything's just kind of done in a linear fashion. Locums is kind of like breaking free from that sort of
100%.
that mold, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like you said, everything you've done up until this point has been done for you. You might have been guided to, I don't know, which college do you want to go to? Let's visit this
Right,
school or
right,
whatever. But you still know the framework
It's a
is
defined path.
I'm going to college, then I'm going to med school, then I'm going to residency. Now, those all have its own challenges. Where are you
Absolutely.
going? How are you getting in? All of your board exams. And so all of that, moving to new cities, like all of that you got to go through. But you know that's an expected challenge. It's part of the path. Then you get your job. But then what?
Then what, right? There's no guidance after that.
Nothing.
You're kind of left
Nothing.
to go after residency to figure it out on your own. And if there's not information about a alternate career path that might be lucrative, more conducive to your lifestyle and your values, if it's not out there and no one's doing it, then you wouldn't know about it. And you'll just be stuck in a situation, right?
Correct.
That kind of happened to me. My
Okay.
first 2 years of as I graduated from residency, worked at a really cool hospital. I liked my colleagues and everything. Didn't have a problem with it. But I just, having worked I started working some locum shifts on the side just to kind of pay back my loans. And one of my friends had been doing locums, like, you should just try it out. I'm like, okay, I'm open to trying it out. I could use some extra cash anyways, right? Have a student debt, just bought a house, all that stuff. And I quickly learned or realized that a week of shifts doing locums was equivalent to my month salary as a employee. And so after a couple of months, I was like, okay, well, I have to make a decision here. I have to decide how do I want to value myself? Do I want to give myself value to where I have to work twice as hard and make less? Or do I want to value my time to where I work less and make more and I can do other things outside of that I actually appreciate and value, right? And one of the things that really is my sort of mission is to really show doctors that to value themselves, I think because everything's been handed to us, we don't really think outside the box. We don't have time to reflect. And so we don't really value ourselves. Our value is based on what someone else is willing to give us. And we'll take the first best thing out of residency that we see, some shiny object. Oh, there's a $100,000 loan payment, repayment, right? Or a decent salary that's like 5x your resident salary. It seems amazing,
Right.
but you don't know that there's actually other options as well, right?
Yep.
And so because it's not a standard approach, and so we just want to make locums through these conversations, like telling your story, right? Make it more mainstream, that it is a very viable career option.
Yeah.
That it's not difficult. Benefits
all.
are easy. You can just call a
Yes.
broker. You can call the insurance company directly.
She did it all for me. She
Right. You don't have to do
literally
anything.
Did it all. She sat on the phone with me and said, here are different. First, she asked, what are your goals?
Yeah.
Right? How many people do you have?
Yeah,
What do you want?
all the
Do you-
stuff.
And then you go through, well, do you want a higher deductible or do you want a higher out of pocket? But these are not decisions that we don't already make even when we're selecting our benefits. When you select your benefit plans,
Yeah.
you go through, do you want a high deductible? Do you want how much? It's the same thing, but instead of doing it on the computer with your company,
Yes.
you can do it on the phone with the broker.
Yeah.
And everything is still taken care of for you.
Yeah.
So it was, and the next thing was, oh, well, I need dental. Well, I need vision. Well, that's easy too.
It's easy too.
Here's the other thing that you worry about, retirement. What are you going to do? You don't have benefits. You don't have this.
Yes.
That was another hurdle in my head. Well, then you learn you actually can put away more self-employed. So these are things you're not taught. You're not taught these things.
Career planning, strategizing is not something that we're taught at all. And I think that's a key flaw in our training is that we're just trained to be part of the workforce.
Yeah.
And we're still part of the workforce.
We are.
Like you and I, we work side by side with doctors and we're doing the exact same job, right? We're not leaving the workforce, but we're doing the exact same things. But the ability to have more control, right? Over your schedule, you're having more autonomy. Like you obviously value that a lot, right? And a lot of, I think doctors who do locums are kind of fed up. They're kind of tired of this thing of just being told when to have to show up to work and when to have to work and not being able to take vacation when they want to, having to beg, for vacation times when other people, maybe 5 other people request at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It's so that's something that I think is really something that it's important to highlight that,
Yeah.
right? Because I feel like most doctors are just kind of living, again, we call it the medical matrix,
Yeah.
right? They don't know what's beyond the matrix until people like yourself can share your story and show people, hey, it's actually not that hard to get benefits. Like it's not. Well, you know what blows my mind?
What?
We'll learn like the most complex things in biochemistry, physiology, and
Right.
pharmacology, memorize all these like pathways, but when it comes to benefits, we get paralyzed. It's like, guys, it's not that hard.
How do you open an LLC? That is daunting.
Yeah.
When you don't realize it's just like 2 clicks online.
I tell people this.
I mean, Yeah.
Listen, anything you want to know.
yeah.
There's 3 things:
Yeah.
YouTube, ChatGPT, and Google.
This is true.
Like any piece of information you
This
need
is
to know,
true.
if you want to start a business, you want to know whether you should do an LLC or an S corp as a
Yeah.
locum doctor, if you
Yeah.
want to know how to get benefits in your thing, there's no excuse anymore. Everything's there, right? So it's just a matter of now, are you willing to kind of just
You're willing to step out
step out? Yeah,
of what you were taught.
yeah,
Because even when you step out, you're going to get people that will still try to discourage you.
Let's talk about that. You've had some interesting experiences recently, and in the past as a new locum doctor, where
Yeah.
you've come up with some.
Yeah.
Kind of some hate, right?
Yeah.
And they say hate comes from below, but tell me, tell me, maybe summarize, what your experience was, and
Yeah. So, on the, I see what you're saying when you say employee. We're always employees, right? So as part of a group, you are told, well, locums is bad because you're doing the same work and they're getting paid a lot more than you.
as if that's a bad thing.
As if that's a bad thing, right? As if we all couldn't.
So it's
do the
guilt.
same
There's
thing.
some guilt associated with making more money amongst doctors. It's almost
There
as if
is.
like you should not make more money,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like why? You
Right.
just spent 10 years of your life
Right.
deferring income,
Right.
being 500K
Come sit back
negative.
with us.
Right.
Mhm. So I have now gone out on
Yeah.
my own and
Yeah.
I'm doing locums. And there was a patient that came in and we were told on the box, there's 2 patients coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And the home has maggots and the EMS personnel said, hey, just FYI,
Yeah.
guys, because you got to prepare like the
Of course.
decon and all
Yep,
that stuff.
yep.
And the other physician that I was working
So you're working
with,
there as a locum.
I was working at the
Yes.
site as a locums doc, and one of the staff docs was there working with me and said, you know, I think you should take this patient because you get paid way more than I do. And said it like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't think that's what I was getting paid to do, but okay.
I mean,
Right?
you're there
'Cause
to be a
we're-
team member of the department, right?
We are
You're not
all
there to
seeing all
do
the
the dirty
patients.
work of everyone else.
Right.
Like if you're in a
Right.
situation, a position where you can see the patient, great. But to
Right.
say something like that, it
Right.
just shows the mentality, right?
Right. And so then in the moment I had to figure out, God, how do I handle this? Because I was taken aback.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you're a guest in somebody's home. But at the same time, we're doing the same thing, and we all have the same goal, and that is to take care of
The
patients.
patients, yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't think that's why I get paid more, but okay. And so the way I handled it is the patient came in with another person from the same home. So I said, you know what? I'll even take the second patient because they came from the same home as well.
Yeah. So you rose up
And-
and you didn't like make us, make it a scene.
make a
You did the
scene.
right thing. As a locum, I always tell people like
Oh,
just
thank you.
low profile. Low profile.
Yeah.
If someone's talking smack, whatever, don't return it in favor,
Okay.
right? Just stay professional. Like you did a fantastic job there because I could have gotten out of hand. You could have been like, well, what are you talking about? You can't talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Right. And then it becomes like, well, then the attending can say, well, this doctor was rude with me. I don't want her here anymore. And guess what? You're a 1099. They can let you go like this, and they don't have to even give you a real excuse.
That's
They can
true.
just say she was unprofessional, and now you're gone. Right. So
Yeah.
it's important to lower the ego a bit, I think.
So thank you for that feedback, because I think that's one thing that we don't really get
Hmm.
also as locums. Like who do we go to figure out how do we conduct ourselves in this situation? You know,
a good
you
point.
don't have that. So that I do appreciate that.
Because one thing I will point out on that is that
Yeah.
like I train doctors that work with us is to think of yourself as a business.
Okay.
So you're a businessman or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Conduct yourself as a professional at all times. Like, obviously, you're a physician as well,
Mm-hmm.
but you have an even higher responsibility as a physician who's a business person. So being professional at all times. Like I'm not saying you let people cross boundaries and really just be outright rude and disrespectful. You can just be respectful but firm and people are trying to do that. But at the same time, it's better to lower your ego when things happen because there's less risk and less reason needed for you to be out. Right.
That's true.
And we've done this.
That is
We've
true.
seen several sites where doctors have done some questionable things. Some were quite obvious and they were let go. And obviously that's totally fine. But some were a little
Yeah.
bit on the, on the fence, a little bit
Yeah.
like gray area.
Yeah.
But the site was like, you know what? That doctor's name has come up more than once and not in a good way. And,
Got
there
it.
was some conversation that could have been had about it. There could have been some debate about some of the things that had happened without going into details. But they're like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this. Give these shifts to somebody else. Right. Because it's very easy for them to do that. So as a
Yeah.
locum, you kind of have to just navigate. Because I see the other side,
Yeah.
being the CEO of Locums United and whatnot. So I get to see what happens on the other side of things. And so low maintenance,
Okay.
no drama, low maintenance. Just put your head down, work hard, and just go home.
Be nice to everyone.
Thank you. Yes, that is key.
Can I tell you another thing? So in addition to be nice to everyone, I will tell you the other feedback that I've gotten, not from a direction of how do you conduct yourself, but you go and you do a good job. So on the flip side, I won't say it's all hate.
Yeah.
On the flip side, at one of the sites, I actually had registration. She was the registration clerk, and she came over and she said, I just want to tell you how, am I allowed to say how badass of a job you're doing here? And I was like, me? I was like, she said, oh, I'm telling you, they are all taking notice. And I was like,
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, because you've come in and you are showing them how they need to act, and everybody is watching you. And I was like,
That's awesome. That's great.
so, but she said
You
it
can
in
set a good
way, and
example,
She pulled
right?
me aside. She's like, I'm letting you know, we all notice. And I was like,
That's a great point. One, awesome. I mean, I'm
Okay.
not actually surprised. But to know that when you do start a locum job, if you're, thinking about it or already doing it,
yeah,
all eyes are on you.
Right.
You may not see it.
You
It may not be
don't
obvious, not
notice.
direct, but literally everyone,
don't think so,
from the
but
nurses to the
man.
techs to the charge nurse to the registration to your attendings to the consultants and everyone in between, everyone's watching you, right? So you got to be on your utmost best behavior. And I tell some people, like, look, you might be naturally a jerk or like kind of just rough around the edges. Just fake it. Try to be nice. Like, I mean, during that shift, just be overly, like, courteous, professional. Again, this is now your income and you have to treat it like a business, right? You have to lower the ego and just do what's right for your business.
Right. Do what's
And
right.
it'll serve you well. I mean, I've been in the game for 10 years as a locum full time. And it's I always tell people it's very easy to be a successful locum doc to where they would want you to come back. It's just like show up on time, work hard when you're there, complete your charts on time, and just don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
If you can just do those things and these emotional, like the intelligence and these soft skills, I feel like doctors sometimes neglect. That actually ends up biting them, later on and causing them to lose jobs.
Yeah.
And in some cases, making it hard for them to even get jobs because now the reputation it's made.
gets
I
out
hear
there.
about this. It gets out there. I've heard
gets
just
out there.
docs that try to work with us, but I've heard from multiple sources that they were very difficult to work with because of X, Y, and Z reason. And, we don't want that because we don't want that our hospital that we're serving to have to deal with a problematic doctor, right? Knowingly.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know and something happens, of course we step in right away and we deal with it professionally. But I'm not like another locum legacy company that will just recycle docs from site to site and just get a few shifts out of them just because they can't stay anywhere because they have some problems, right? Like we have a blacklisted actually list of doctors that will never work with us again.
When you say that, so two things. I was going to ask a question.
Yeah.
So when they say the community's small, is it?
Very
the
small.
EM community.
Very small.
Right.
Word gets around. You need to, one of the things I talk about in the course is about building a strong reputation is extremely important as a locum, right? And the less your name comes up, actually, the better. But if it comes up in a good way, that's obviously good. But like sometimes I'll get calls from doctors after they've worked like a block of shifts, like, hey, did you hear anything, positive? I'm like, listen, man, no news is good news.
This is true.
So you just put your head down, lay low. I mean, if I didn't hear anything, you're good.
Okay, that's true.
That's good. Yeah. You'll get feedback. One of the most common ones that I get when I go to sites, and I've heard a lot of my colleagues, is that once you've done a block of shifts, maybe your first block, the nurses will start asking you, hey, when are you coming back?
Yes.
Right? Have you experienced that?
I have.
Yeah.
And so that was going to go to the second thing is that I actually had an APP at a site look at me and say, you're quickly becoming one of my favorite attendings because you're like a normal locum stock. And I was like, what does that mean? Because again, I'm new to this. And so there's things that you're hearing and you're like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
am I really hearing this? Like, you just don't know. And I said, well,
Because you don't get this feedback when you're an employee.
When you do not.
No
get
one gives
that.
you feedback, hey, you're a good doctor.
Oh, but you'll get
You're an amazing
feedback
doctor.
when you didn't meet like your metrics and you didn't meet this.
When you didn't give potassium when
you
it was
didn't give-
3.3.
oh, my
It's like
goodness.
you'll get emails and like, he's calling to the office for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no positive reinforcement
Nothing
at all.
positive.
But as a locum, you do.
And so I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Because, I'm still always very skeptical. Like, me?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And so they said, well, because you actually talk to people, you go in to see your patients, you talk to us, and you actually know what you're doing. And so that person's experience was that a lot of locum stocks that have come through could not work anywhere permanently because of reputation, personality, whatever. And the only option, and that's why I think there is maybe a stigma at locums, is their only option was to keep moving around from site to site to site before that site said you can't come back, and then they keep going.
Well, the problem becomes one where locums companies will keep recycling those type of doctors, right? And it's
why?
Well, for money.
Yeah, true.
Well, why would they, lose revenue on a doc if they can get
True.
5 shifts out of them here, and then they
True.
get let go, and then 5 shifts at another place? Okay,
Yeah.
they're let go, and then another one.
Yeah.
And so it's about money at the end of the day. And I think like there needs to be feedback. I think doctors need to hear this. Like you stop being an idiot about these things. Like a lot of them will just. I mean, I can't tell you the stories that we've heard or experienced rather through our company. That'll be maybe on the what's it called, the edited uncut version.
Right.
We'll have to do that actually. Stories from our side.
That
right?
actually might be fun.
That could be a fun episode.
That would
Let's
be
do
fun.
that.
That would
Let's
be fun.
do that for sure.
So I think I'm interrupting you.
No, please.
But along those lines, you as CEO of a locums company, how do you make it so that you are not that company that is recycling docs that are not good?
Good question. One is that we don't have recruiters. We don't just do cold outreach and just blast thousands of emails and phone numbers every day, which is what their model is. Their model is X locum company. This is a standard across the locum industry. They have recruiters who have to make 100 calls a day. I know this for a fact because we have one that works with us who was previously at these companies and tells us what they used to do.
Got it.
So they had to make 100 calls a day, emails, all that stuff, right? And we've heard some calls that I've played for some of my colleagues and stuff. When they call me, I'll put it on speaker. And, they're on their 99th call. They're just like, will you take this job? And just like, bro, I mean, where's the energy? Like, do you really want me to work here or are you just making the 99th call? I feel bad at times. It is what it is. But the way that we kind of make sure, look, there's no sure way fired to know that someone is going to be an amazing doctor until you actually see them work.
Sure.
The vast majority of our doctors come in through our network. So we have a network of physicians that have worked with us at various sites, right, over the years, over the last 10 years. And so our first goal is to reach out to all of them to make them, whenever we have a new job, to help have those guys and those docs come work with us. And then the second thing is that, we do have on occasion doctors that come to us that we don't know about. We do reference checks, we do background checks. I talk to them all. And so I make sure that I do that sort of one-on-one communication with them because I'm a physician, right? And so I want to make sure that doctor-to-doc connection is happening. And I go over my expectations. As a physician, as a owner of a locums company, I'm like, listen, these things you need to do in order to kind of maintain a good standing with us. Because we have a standard. And we're not just going to let you slide if you're like, being an idiot. And we have, like I told you earlier, we have a black list. There's doctors on there. There's not a lot of them, but there's several,
Do not hire.
Yeah, we're like, if these docs reach out to us, absolutely not. They'll never work another day with us. And so that's how we maintain quality. And our clients see it. And another thing, all our hospitals that we work with, they all have my number. The scheduler does, the director does, they have my number. I'm a physician. So I understand if something happens and they don't often reach out to me, but if something is really urgent and they need my input on it or need to reach out to me, they just text or call me.
Yeah.
Right? And so in any issue that comes up with any doctor and things do slip through the cracks, we just address it right away. We don't try to make excuses about anything. I'll own up to it. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry. This doctor checked out fine when I was interviewing them and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But they came out to be a complete dud, and started being mean to nurses or techs and stuff like that. We had a doc.
When they see that you respond,
Yeah.
then they realize, okay, yeah, no, he really does want to put out good quality docs.
Absolutely.
So
they value that communication because
Yeah.
we actually recently had a hospital that we staffed up in New York. And, they're like, well, I'm so happy that I can get help from you directly. We actually sat down with them in person and had a meeting about their needs and all that stuff. Because she said that these other companies, that we work with, I can't even get a hold of them, the right person who can solve my problems, right? And so that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on.
Oh, good.
Right. And so, and you've been working with Locums United for some time.
I have.
Yeah. How has your experience been? And let's just try to make it, we'll cut out any of the negative comments. Just kidding.
JK. No. There really haven't been any negative comments at all. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like I'm a paid participant because I'm not, but I have a lot of great things to say about Locums United. A lot. I mean, everywhere that I have gone, I've heard nothing but positive things about you guys.
Appreciate it.
If I'm allowed to say, which I think I can, right? I think I can. So there is a site that I work with you guys, and the administrator for the group that staffs more than one site told me that they were so impressed with you guys that they wanted to only use you guys. And, they were just like, I wish I could use them for all of my sites. It was like that. And that's the kind of thing that you hear.
I'm glad. I'm glad that you experienced that. And I'm actually experiencing that on our end as well. Most of the sites that we work with, they have multiple sites and all that. They need help and they'll usually be having multiple companies before they start with us.
Yeah.
And eventually once they start working with us, I'm having direct communication and they'll say, well, we don't really want to work with anybody else.
Yeah.
Right? They like the sort of one-on-one communication with a physician who understands, and we're very high touch, and we don't take on every client either.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. We've had to like
Really?
a lot of some hospitals, not a lot, but some of them have unrealistic expectations. Like they don't want a board certified doctor at a very low bill rate at a very remote site, and I'm like, I can't help you with that,
Yeah.
but I can guide you to tier 2 company,
Yeah.
locum company, who can give you some B-rated doctors that you might
Yeah.
fill that job for you.
Yeah.
Right, at a lower rate, because I can't in good faith send a doctor at a low rate that you're that you're just kind of able to come up with. So it's we have rejected hospitals as well.
So let me tell you something else I appreciate about you guys. Well, there's so much, like I said. One, I appreciate that I can actually talk to you. Because there are other locums companies out there and you don't even know who the owner is. Like, how do you talk to them? I don't know. You're talking to the recruiter. That is your only contact. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate, because these are things that I learned from you last year before even deciding I was going to work with you. Let's be clear.
Right.
I met you at AAEM not knowing I was going to be a full-time
Right.
locums doc at the time, and certainly not knowing I was going to work with you. And you gave pearls and tips on what you should do and not do when you're navigating this locums world. And one of the things I always remember you saying is that one of the reasons you started this was because you wanted things more transparent with how you were getting paid, and that's something you should be able to ask any locums group that you join with. Like, what is your percentage that you guys make? And, that kind of thing. And so, fun fact, without having to learn the hard way after years and years, because of you, there is a site that I was working, did an orientation shift, and very shortly after, there was an advertisement for this site for a particular rate, which was much higher than what I was getting as a locums
With another company.
with the other company.
You were working with another locum
I was
company,
working with
not
another-
Locums
sorry,
United.
sorry,
Just
sorry,
making
yes,
it
yes,
clear.
Let's make it clear.
Yeah,
Let's
because
make it
that
clear.
never happens
It
with
was-
our company.
That's
But
why
yeah,
I was saying that. I
yeah.
appreciate you guys because you say what your rate is and you give the highest rate possible
From the get-go.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
So this particular company, I had a rate, but very shortly after was advertised, not through the company, but just advertised that they are looking for docs because they're recruiting. I mean, every site is
course.
always recruiting.
Always.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
We know this.
Right.
And they advertised the site. They advertised the rate.
The rate, yeah.
And the rate that they were looking for to hire people on was higher than my locums rate.
Really? Wow.
So I went to my recruiter and I said, "Yeah, I don't think I can work for this
Yeah.
rate anymore because
Good.
look at what." And the recruiter said, "Where did you get that from? It doesn't matter.
and
It's
that,
out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's
in
legit."
the world. Yeah.
They went, did research, came back to me and said, "Okay, so we found out it's the site is looking for full-time docs, and that is the rate that they want to pay full-time docs. That's fine, but I am not going to
Yeah.
travel in,
Not get
take 2
benefits
flights,
or anything else. Yeah.
drive 2 hours, no benefits, and get paid less than what you're willing to pay your
Yeah.
full-time doc."
Well, those are the games that
I
these
can't.
legacy locums play, right? Like, I mean, they really try to capitalize on ignorance of doctors, which unfortunately a lot of us are, until we are able to like, educate ourselves, have mentors, read, watch YouTube, like just really take that sort of effort to learn about your value. That's what they bank on that.
Can I add what else they bank on? Fear. Fear that you're not going to say no because you need to work. And
They think they're doing you a favor and you need them.
right, exactly.
Right?
And I said no.
You need to flip it on the head right
I
there.
said no. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I know I just started, but can't work for that. And you know what happened? You guys came through with another site
That paid.
that paid more.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, see, you can't. The fear is it's because it's of the unknown.
It's manufactured in a way
It's
like
of the unknown. You always
yeah.
have a fear of the unknown. And not knowing that there is work out there, you feel like you're going to take things
Yeah.
because you have to, but I don't have to.
you don't have to.
And when I realized I didn't have to, it showed me more and more and more that I'm up to 3 sites with you guys,
Yeah.
right?
There's no shortage of jobs.
There's no shortage of
Of
jobs.
high paying, extremely high paying
Absolutely,
jobs, right?
I can work 6 days and make more than I did as a W-2
In a month.
in a month.
Six
Six
locum shifts a month.
6 locum shifts, and I would make probably a little more than I was making
full time as an
full-time
employee.
as the W-2.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. And I think that sort of seeing that on paper is different, right?
Yeah.
When you actually
Yeah.
see the numbers in
When
your
you
bank
see it in your
account.
bank account.
Yes. Like, wait a minute. I like this
looked like,
number.
wait, what?
Yeah.
I mean, there was one time I didn't calculate. I don't know why I didn't
Yeah.
calculate it, but I didn't calculate it because I only worked like a few shifts, only
Yeah.
like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then I checked my bank account. I was like,
Where did that come
wait,
from?
is that right?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, is that right? I looked at my account, looked at my calculator. I was like,
Wait
looked
a
at my
minute.
calendar. Wait, is that right? Like, oh my God. And then because you're working at multiple sites, you have different paydays. And then I thought,
Yeah.
wait, that doesn't include these days that I
Yeah.
just
It
did.
worked.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
that's coming
Yep.
too.
It's a game changer when the
It
money starts
really
flowing
is.
in. That's why you're
It
wearing
is.
green today, right?
That's why I'm wearing green. You're awesome.
So let's talk
give
about some
numbers.
numbers. Yeah. What has been your experience? If you're comfortable sharing your numbers, what kind of
I'm
numbers?
an open book. I think I'm too open. I tell people, no, honestly, like,
But
I
it's
tell
all,
people,
it's good to tell people, I think, numbers,
I
right? It's not
will.
like, yeah.
Because, and I share everything, but that's because when I'm looking for something, I want somebody to be just as honest with me, because we always want to make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
We don't want to go down a road that I'm like, damn it, why didn't you tell me? Like, I never want that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do that to other people. So whatever it is that I'm helping with, talking about advertising, if you want the truth, just ask me. I'll
Yeah.
tell you.
I mean, that's the way that we operate our company too. I mean, I think that's the best policy. People
Yeah.
will, even if you're not as profitable, like
Yeah.
we've had to, again, walk away from situations where we could have made some money,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be the right thing to do. Like maybe I'd have to, not pay a doctor enough. To me, that's dishonest
Yeah.
because I'm not feeling I'm doing them right
Yeah.
by that. You know what I mean? So what are some numbers? Let's
Some
talk about
actual
numbers.
Okay, so real life example. W-2, I would say probably anywhere from 180 to 200 an hour with benefits.
Yeah.
Sure, fine. So I thought I was doing great when I negotiated $3.15 an hour as my rate.
As a
thought- as a
employee,
locums?
as a locums, gotcha.
As a locums, I said, well, I'm going to do $3.15 because 200 and $3.15, like,
It's a big difference.
this is
yeah.
a big difference. So
Yeah.
I thought I was doing like big things. And so even my colleagues were impressed. They're like, whoa, really? I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then you came along. And, my sites that I work, my rates are anywhere between $3.30 and $3.75 an hour. And now I won't go below that.
Yeah.
I will not do anything less. So, when I said, oh my God, my bank account, I just happened to open it. There's $17,000. And I'm like, where'd that come from? Wait, what? And that was not doing a full week.
Right.
That was doing maybe 3 or 4 shifts,
Yeah.
maybe 4.
Yeah, it adds up pretty quickly. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we talked about in the talk that I did yesterday at the Locum tennis section meeting, is that just giving you examples of people that work with us
Yeah.
and what their income sort of has been and what kind of models that they do use locums for, like in their
Yeah.
life. So we had Dr. A who worked a year after their residency as just like a resident in terms
Yeah.
of like the number of shifts, working 18 to 20, making over 370 plus bucks an hour, made almost $1 million in a year. And he paid off his student debt in 1 year, bought a house on cash, paid some taxes, of course, but was able to bring that tax bracket or that burden down significantly due to being a small business,
Yeah.
and is debt free. 1 year. Most docs are stuck paying a second mortgage essentially with their student loan
Yeah.
for like 10, 20 years, right?
So let's bring it to another real life example. Let's just say you don't own a house. Let's say you don't have these things, right?
Yeah.
So I have a dog, and now I'm traveling a lot. So my mom is like, "What are you gonna do with the dog?" So I actually have a very good friend of mine. Her niece comes over and she stays and she watches the dog. I mean, I could put the dog in the kennel, but
Sure.
why? She loves
Yeah.
dogs, and
Has to
I
get
have an
home and-
extra room,
yeah.
and so she can stay there, and she loves him, and that's great. And I told my mom, and we were talking, and I said, I pay her what I would pay a regular dog sitter, and she's like, well, how much is that? Because people don't know that
Yeah,
this is an
yeah.
expense.
Of course.
And I told her, what the current rates are in my area, and so she said, that's like $400. You're gonna pay $400 for the week? And I was like, yeah. I mean, Mom, 1 hour. It's
Yeah.
1 hour of my
like,
salary.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
she doesn't get that.
That
She
could be
thinks-
considered a tax write-off too, potentially.
Oh, but
I'm
it
not
is.
yeah.
Oh, no,
Right.
but it
I don't
is.
want to give
But-
financial advice here,
no
but I'm just saying.
financial advice. But
No.
what did you say? Google, Chat, GPT, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have a business, you can use your dog. Anyway, so
Yeah,
we'll get into
because you're
that.
going and you need someone to watch the dog, right, for work, right? So it's like, well, that
and-
could be.
Yeah, and
Just
also
run it
if
by
you-
your CPA, your tax
run it by
advisor.
your CPA,
yeah.
but also if you have your dog trained, then your dog is part of your business. But anyway.
Okay.
So, yep.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that one.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
If you have a business and you have formally trained your dog, I mean, your dog is guarding your
Oh, I
your
see.
business,
Your business.
right?
Oh, wow.
Right.
Interesting.
Or for example, let's say you have, I don't know, real estate and your dog comes with you because you're single and
Yes.
don't want to go into these places with contractors that you don't know. This is
Oh,
your
that's
guard dog.
smart. I like that.
Sorry.
Yo, that's brilliant.
Talk to your financial people.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the point is, if you think about real life examples to someone like my mom, paying
Yeah.
somebody $400 for a week is a lot.
It
In
seems
my
crazy.
mind,
Yeah.
it's 1 hour out of my locum salary that I'm giving.
That's
to
also
her.
tax deductible or counted as an expense for your business, potentially.
Potentially, right? Talk to
Potentially.
you-
Yeah.
But when you look at real life examples and you look at how much you're going to make, that almost 1 hour, a little more, paying her was closer to 2 to 3 hours at a W-2. So
Yes.
when you compare it like that, it's just
Yeah. Let's talk about. There's a couple other things I wanted to mention, or actually discuss with you. You said you recently were in a situation where you met someone and they were talking to you about what the pay. They were hoping that your pay is high enough and that it's worth the malpractice risk. What I want to mention about that before you give me the answer, because I want to hear your thoughts,
yeah.
is that there's a misconception about locums that you're only going to be going to dumpster fire sites, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks you could walk into a complete disaster and you're going to be seeing 10 patients an hour and there's, it's going to be on, whatever, like just like the
Yeah.
craziest scenarios.
Yeah.
How did you respond to this person who mentioned this and what has been your experience? Is that true?
So I didn't respond to the person. I heard it. I was telling the person I haven't seen them in a while, like, oh, yeah, I'm doing locums down. They're like, well, hopefully your pay is high enough that it's worth this risk. And I thought, oh, yeah. And I walked away like, wait, is there an additional risk I'm supposed to be thinking about? And I was confused for a second. I'm walking away and I'm walking with another doc who does locums. And I said, guess what I was just asked? And I mentioned this to her and she said, I don't know what additional risk. There is no additional risk. This is somebody who probably doesn't understand what locums is. And so I had to think about it and ask, what additional risk am I taking on? But I think it's because of that stigma that these are very hard to staff sites because they're awful.
Yeah.
My experience has not been that. I travel to places that people otherwise wouldn't live.
People don't want to live there. They're
People
okay
don't wanna
working there.
live there.
They're happy to
Or-
travel there like you do.
Correct.
But
They're
not
very-
live their entire like social outside life
because
outside of
there's
work. Nothing there. Yeah.
They are very small towns where people are very nice, very friendly. I will say I have not had a single problem getting along with nurses in these towns. I have met really, really nice people in these small towns. Let me tell you, there was
It's
one
surprising,
site-
right? Sometimes it surprises you.
So there was one site that it's very, very small. So the rental car situation gets a little dicey. If you don't book early enough, they won't have any
have one.
cars.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to take an Uber. And this gentleman who gave me a ride, was talking and telling the situation, he's like, oh no, we can't have you like this. And him and his wife took me back and forth from the hotel to the site every day for a week.
Are you serious?
No lie. Every day. And
That's
I said, well, I'm
amazing.
going to pay you instead of paying through.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay you directly.
Yeah.
Every day they were there outside of my door, morning and evening. And so that's what happens when you go to these small sites. So
They
it's
value
not-
you more.
They
I feel
are
like.
so appreciative that we are there to help them. So it's not like it's a dumpster fire site.
Yeah.
It's that it's so small. You don't have like 10 million doctors who are born and
Yes.
raised there and are
Right.
going back home. You just don't have that.
volume.
But they have people that need to be cared for. So that's my experience. It's all been good.
Very similar. Like
Yeah?
I've been to some very remote sites in the middle of nowhere and just wasn't sure what kind of reception I would have with the patients and the nurses and all that. But I've been pleasantly surprised every single time. And it's actually increased my love for medicine
Yeah.
because I think we're so used to just getting beat up on psychologically, emotionally,
Yeah.
right? In the ER from patients, from admin, from whatever, right? The volumes, the boarding, and all this stuff. no one thanking us, but only reminding us when something perfect didn't happen, right? It's just like there's always just negative reinforcement for everything that we do, nothing real positive. So when you start actually getting a little bit of positive reinforcement, it's just like, oh, wow, that kind of feels nice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like there is actually real value that I'm bringing to people.
Yeah.
It's not just like, it's just, there's no negative association then.
Yeah.
Right?
I had patients that are like, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. Do you need anything else? Like you just want to help.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience. It's been wonderful. I'm sure there are other negative experiences, of course. I mean, there's always going to be the good with the bad, but I can say it's more positive than negative. My negatives, just to let's be real.
Yeah, let's
right.
list
Let's
them. Yep.
be real. My negatives have been travel.
It was something you wanted to do, but now maybe
it's
a little bit of price.
It comes with the things you can't control.
Like
you
weather.
Can't control weather.
Yeah.
You cannot control a disruptive passenger that after being grounded on the plane for an hour because of lightning, now you have to wait because we have to get security to escort a person off.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yes, all of this happened, which caused you to miss your connection. And
oh, gosh.
So you...
Yeah. I got stuck on the tarmac once for like 3 hours in Newark. And so the mistake I made was I was working a night shift, but then I took a flight from California early, the first one out.
Yeah.
Got to Newark, and then got stuck on the tarmac for 3 hours. Like we're on the plane, and so I got late. My site was about 3 hours away from there. I still had to go to the rental car. I called them. I was like, the guys, I'm sorry, I just can't do this. So one thing that I always recommend locum docs, if you're flying in, always come in the day before.
The day before.
Even if it's a night shift, don't try to thread that needle there. Just come in the night before, or the day before rather. Give yourself enough time to anticipate. And if I always check the weather. Right, this is something that I think is a good practice. Even when I'm driving, actually now I started checking the weather. Even if it's just like irregular, it's not like winter. Just to make sure there's no like crazy thunderstorm that's coming in, because that increases the risk of people getting into accidents and things like that. So I very much check like a couple days before and just the morning of that I'm driving, just to make sure that I give myself enough of a head start to get to a place that I need to on time. So that's just some tips for people to think about.
And also, be flexible. Be flexible. It's hard to say don't stress, but I don't think people
What do you mean
who
by
locums are.
What do you mean by be flexible?
I'll put it all in a story. Because I was going to say, it's also, I think people who do locums don't mind travel. And so you and you're also not the type of stressful person, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
So I
for the most part
had a 7 a.m. shift. 11 o'clock the day before, I got a message that my flight was canceled. It was a 3 p.m. flight.
Okay.
So 11 a.m., I don't know, let's say it's a Monday. So 11 a.m. on Monday, I got notification that my 3 p.m. flight was canceled.
Gotcha.
My shift is 7 a.m.
The next
on
morning.
Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I had enough time.
Yeah.
So we won't go into this long and drawn out story, but let's just say 3 airlines later and about 7 delays and or cancellations later.
Yeah.
I didn't end up getting to the airport that I needed to get to until 3 o'clock the next morning.
Mm-hmm. For a 7 o'clock shift.
For a 7 o'clock shift. Mind you, the rental car place is closed.
Closed,
because
of course.
these are small places,
Yes,
right?
yes,
so
yes.
it's closed. I had to get a ride to the hotel. Got to the hotel 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, geez.
And got up at 6:15 to go to work, a 12-hour shift.
So that could be a challenge, right? Just gonna keep it in a buck. Like that can be a challenge at times. Most of the sites that I've worked at, I've been fortunate enough that I've driven to them. About 9 out of 10 sites that I've worked at.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think if you're gonna be flying, just factor that in, right? The rate needs to be worth it.
It has to be worth it.
The rate has to be worth it if you're flying, because you're losing a day on each end for travel, right?
100%.
And if you try to thread the needle again, you might miss it, and then you'll look unprofessional if you don't show up on time.
Right.
Unless some sort of natural disaster, some crazy stuff happens.
I mean, I let the site know the whole
and you've been
way,
very
like
open
the
and communicative.
entire way,
Right.
I let them know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they were fine with it, and it was okay. But just keep that in mind, and you have a pleasant attitude. And of course, I don't know, made friends with the people beside me who were equally as stressed. You just make friends with them. We didn't touch on this, not that it's part of this talk, but if you have good credit cards, and you can get to a lounge.
That's true.
Kind of hang out in the lounge.
That's true. It's a better spot than at the gate.
Than sitting at the gate.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, what are some of the things that we'll probably wrap it up with here? is like in terms of like your time outside of locums now, your work. What are you trying to do with your time that you have, the flexibility that you have with, now that you're kind of free and broken out of the matrix?
Interesting question.
Because we talked a little bit
Like-
downstairs about like mindset,
We
business,
did.
8 figures, that type of stuff.
did.
Yeah.
And I am interfering with myself. So I have opportunities to do things that I probably wouldn't have had opportunities to do before, entrepreneurial stuff. And even though, that's why this is a surprise answer, because even though I have opportunities to do things, because I want to be a brand, right? I'm working now because I was told by someone, you're going to get addicted to it. I'm like, no, I'm not. You're supposed to do locums to work smarter, not harder, but now I'm doing both.
Yeah.
I'm working smarter, but I'm still working
Really hard,
harder
yeah.
because it's just the draw of it. You're going to these places, you're flying, you're meeting new people, you're helping people who really need the help. And so even though I
People
want to
value,
do other
yeah.
things and
Yeah.
start other businesses and do different fun stuff and travel,
Yeah.
I find that, oh God, but I got to pick up more shifts. Like,
Yeah.
I want to work. So at some point,
It's a balance. Everything's and it takes some time to, I think, to figure out that balance. And in
Yeah,
different stages
okay.
of your career,
Yeah.
you might value one more thing than the other.
Yeah.
I've had periods of time in my life as a locum where I worked 15, 16 shifts a month.
yeah,
And I've had periods of time in my career as a locum where I've worked 7, 8 shifts a month regularly. Right,
Okay.
just depending on what I needed to do outside the hospital
at that time.
Right, I've gotten down to point where I've scaled that down to 7 to 8 shifts now. But
I'm going to get there.
yeah, we'll get you there soon.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, good.
Well, guys, it was great having you on. Thank you so much,
you.
Dr. Henriquez, for joining us and for this podcast. I'm sure we might do an uncut version.
I've
and
lived for
and
the
really-
uncut version. Like, I'll do that.
let's do it. All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see you.